Hey, what's up? So this is part 2 of how to convert your mini Summit into a mini e-revo. So now I have the e-revo arms, and I'll go ahead and start putting these on. So these two pieces are the same, so it doesn't matter. You just got to pay attention, make sure you're putting the arms on correctly. So we'll start with the bottom arm. So you're not going to want to screw this all the way in. There's about that much gap left. And these are an adjustment, so when you have it on here, but when you adjust it, it'll adjust like that based on how much it's screwed in. And that could be adjusted later. Even with the tires on, you can adjust through the rim. The upper arms are identical, so it doesn't matter which one you put on which. It's just the bottom arms that are different, so you have to pay attention to those. I think I did do it backwards. Okay, so I just realized I put this on backwards. So the top arm does not matter. You can put it either way. The arms are the same. But the bottom arm, you have to make sure this part for the link matches up with the link right here. Now I can go ahead and put these back on. Make sure you put them on the correct side. You just want to make sure the bottom arm has the link on the outside or towards the back of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this pin back in. Just push the pin in like that. Okay, and just put the other arm on. Put the skid plate back on. Just make sure the pins line up in there. Now I'll go ahead and put the new axles in. Make sure your bearing's in there and didn't fall out. Now that those are in, I can put the arms back on. And just make sure you put them straight, because if you do, because they do kind of fit like this, so if they're the wrong way, just flip them over just to make sure this is lined up. Then you just put the pin back in. Then you can put the push rods back on. Then the wheel hexes can go back on. Then you can put the arms back on. I'll go ahead and put this servo plate on. So this actually just goes like this. It's the cover and the servo guard. And that just goes from the bottom. Go ahead and put the speed controller back in. And I'll plug that into the receiver. I need to change out the spur gear. You just have to hold the spur gear when you do that. Just careful it doesn't rip out of your hand, because that will hurt. Probably should have did this first, but you got to take this cover off, which is just this screw right here at the top. And the cover just slides out to the side. Then you can take the spring off, and then the spur gear will come off. So to change out the spur gear, just take a small screwdriver from the back. You can push out the bearing, just like that. Yep. And then right here there's a little spot. You can get a flathead screwdriver in here and just carefully pry this friction pad out. Take the new spur gear. This is a 50 tooth. The old one is a 55 tooth. And you just push the bearing into place on the front, and then on the back just push the friction pad into place, and that's all you gotta do for that. And you can go ahead and put the spur gear back on. Alright, and then the spring. And then you put the nut back on. On the front side of the transmission there's a hole. You can stick an Allen wrench in there to hold it in place, and then you can tighten it back up. Then just put your seal back on. And this just slips under that little notch. Put this top cover on. Alright, I'll go ahead and start putting the rear suspension back together. So to take the springs apart, because all you gotta do is change the springs out. Just take this bottom retainer off. Take that off. Take the spring off. And then use a black spring for the rear. And you can put that on. So these springs are shorter than the Summit springs, so you just have to adjust this down. So this is the Revo rear shock, and it's a Summit shock right here, and you can see how much you have to adjust it right there. And then for the front spring, you only have to adjust it a little bit tighter, and that uses a tan spring. It uses these progressive #2 rockers. It's probably hard to see on camera. It's pretty small in here. And what you would do is, I already have the bushings in here, but you just push them out from the back, and then you just pop them in the new ones. It tells you on here RR, which is right rear. Same thing with right this. And these two pieces just go together like that. And then you just put it on the right rear. Take your screw, push it all the way through with the bushings. And then you can screw this in right here. Push these together like this. Then you just put the links in like that. And you just want to make sure your suspension is not binding, like that. See how this side falls? I over tightened something. Now I can go ahead and put the rear shocks on. Alright, now I can put this. Then I can put this in there. So this will say RF for right front. So yeah, you just gotta check, make sure you're putting in the right spot. Alright, then you can put this part in for the shocks. So then you're just going to go ahead and remove your pinion gear. The Summit uses a 23 tooth pinion. The E Revo uses a 21 tooth pinion. Now I can put the other pinion gear back on. And there might actually be a mark from the old screw, so you can line that up, make it easier. Just make sure you tighten that back down. Now I just got to put the motor back in, so I got to slide the spigonchore out. Then I could slide the motor in place. When you're setting the mesh on here, you can actually see it right here. So that way you can get it just right. Once you have it in the right spot, you can go ahead and tighten this back down. Once you have it good, you can go ahead and put this plate back on. Now I'll go ahead and put the front bumper on. It would be 2 screws to put the mount or the bumper on, because you can actually use the same mount, and then you just need to get the E-revo body mounts. So that's just 2 screws and then 2 screws in the front, but this is just off the other E-revo, so I'm just going to put this on. It's the short screw in the middle and 2 longer screws right in the front. Okay, then you do need a little bit shorter screw than what came out of that bumper to replace the piece in the front. Now I can move on to the back. So these rear links, just make sure you put them behind this blue plate. If you do keep this same mount right here, you just need to get the wing mount, bumper, and the wing. And that just screws in 4 screws right there. The body mounts right here, rear bumper, and the wing. So I just have off the other E-revo. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this back together. And then you'd use the same screws from before. And then same thing as the front. Longer screws go on the outside and the shorter screw goes in the middle. Now I can plug the motor back in. I'll go ahead and put the tires back on. E-revo tires are directional. This will be a left tire. This will be a left tire. This is a right tire. You just want to make sure it's pointing forward. Alright, then just put the body on. The only other thing you got to do is put the antenna back in. That's how you convert your mini Summit into a mini E-revo. That's going to be it for this video. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.